Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to revisit the life of a chess legend. He passed away on 2025, February 27th. Now, most of you guys who are new to chess or a pretty new chess fan, you guys might just think that he is like a person who threw away the world title against American super grandmaster Bobby Fischer. But for those of you guys who are have been following chess for a much longer period of time, you guys might know more about him, more historical things about him. Before he actually lost the title against Bobby Fischer, his chess life is just so legendary. And this chess player who I'm talking about is none other than Boris Spassky. He passed away this Thursday, the time I'm recording this video, at the age of 88. The Russian Chess Federation has confirmed the news. Now, Spassky was not only the 10th World Chess Champion, but he has also left an incredible mark on chess history with his exceptional skill and also gentlemanly demeanor. Today I'm going to take you through his story and pay tribute to this great master with a classic game between him and Bobby Fischer. First of all, I'm going to quickly introduce his early life. Well, Boris Spassky, he was born in Leningrad, Soviet Union, now known as, now it is the St. Petersburg, Russia. His childhood coincided with the Second World War, during which the city was besieged and life was tough. However, chess became his escape from the harsh reality. And Spassky, he displayed extraordinary talent from an extremely young age and also in a really bad environment. But he managed to learn chess really fast and played it really well at a very young age. And he made his mark at a local chess club when he was just at the age of 10. The hardships of the post-war years shaped his character and laid the foundation for his future success somehow. At the age of 18, for him, Spassky stunned the chess world by earning the title of international master at just 18 years old. So maybe nowadays, even you can become the world champion at the age of 18, just like the new world chess champion Gukesh Damaraju. But back then, when you are gaining the international master at the age of 18, it's already something that is really impressive. And also for Spassky, who actually had a really late start, and he learned chess in a not so great environment at that time. So soon after that he earned the title, he ascended to grandmaster status, and with his, well-rounded skill, like set and steady playing style, he quickly became one of the top Soviet players. Spassky's first challenge for the world championship title came against the Iron Man, Tigran Petrosian, who is also an extremely strong chess player. And although he narrowly lost, but he didn't get discouraged after that loss. 3 years later, he returned again and he defeated Petrosian in their second encounter with overwhelming superiority of just played excellent chess and became the 10th world chess champion. At that moment, he stood atop the Olympus of chess. Spassky's most famous moment actually occurred in Reykjavik, Iceland, where that year he faced American player Bobby Fischer in the World Chess Championship match. Now, which became known as the match of the century at that time. This battle was just not just a, oh, that was a little bit, but this is not just, a contest on the chessboard, but also a symbol of the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union at that time. The match actually captured global attention, even capturing the attention of those who doesn't even know chess. And in the end, even though Bobby Fischer triumphed, ending the Soviet Union's dominance in the chess that had lasted for over 2 decades, I mean, even though it is not a great ending for Spassky, he lost his title. Although, even though he lost his title, he earned worldwide respect for his grace and sportsmanship. After the match, Spassky and Fischer still maintained a lifelong friendship, and a story that remains like a cherished chapter in chess history. Spassky's career was filled with magnificent achievements. Besides becoming the world chess champion, he won the Soviet championship multiple times and claimed numerous international titles. His playing style was known for its depth and strategic understanding about the positions, and earning him the nickname the Mozart of chess. Even after his peak years when he became older, he continued to be active in the chess world, influencing future generations of chess players with his wisdom and passion. And here, in the final segment of this video, I am going to represent a classic chess game between Spassky and Fischer. This game not only showcases the peak mastery of chess between these two strong players, actually they're like legends, but also carries the friendship and mutual respect they shared, transcending the outcome of the match. Now let's walk into this game and pay our respects to the immortal chess legend, Boris Spassky. Now this game was chosen from the World Chess Champion that they played in 1972. And here Spassky is with the white pieces and Fischer is with the black pieces. Here, Spassky decides to play e4. We have c5, knight f3, d6, d4 takes, knight f6, knight c3, and a6. This is the Sicilian defense, the Naudorf variation, that is. And also, just so you guys know that at that time, there's no stockfish or anything. There's no engines that can calculate a lot of width and depths. It's all just your own calculations. So in this game, you're gonna see how deep and wide these players have. Their calculation is just extremely powerful and accurate. So here, of course, this is the opening section, and of course, even though it is at a very early, even though it is in the earlier years, still the Naudorf is really popular. And here we have bishop g5, the main line. Nowadays, it is still the main line. And here e6 was played. We have f4, the best move, and here queen b6 was played. Now, queen d2, still the main line. Both players are playing extremely accurate. We have queen takes b2. Now, here, even the white is sacrificing a pawn, but the compensation is pretty much enough because white gets to develop his pieces really quick by gaining some tempo with attacking the queen. And you can see that after, for example, rook b1, the queen has to move, but that is wasting a tempo, and it gives white much faster development speed, whereas you can see black still hasn't developed much of his pieces yet. So this is the theory about this opening, where white sacrifices a pawn, but the compensation is that white can develop much faster than black can. And here in the game, however, Spassky actually played the second best move here, and it is not the best move, how do you say it? Here, actually, at this point, rook b1 is the only move where white can still stay pretty much a little bit better. But in the game, knight b3 was played instead, which is not that standard at all. This is the second best move in this position, but already, this is a move that gives black the initiative because now black can simply play queen a3, and the queen is pretty much safe. Whereas rook b1, I'm going to quickly show it to you guys. If you play rook b1, queen a3, now at least this knight is still in the center of the board and putting a lot of pressure. You can even just push f5 immediately because this knight is defending, supporting f5. But however, well, that is the main difference between knight b3 and rook b1, because now you kind of played two moves, well, actually 3 moves in the opening with this knight, and it somehow did not increase the development advantage that white has. And here black played queen a3, and we have bishop takes f6 in the game, g takes f6. If white's knight were on d4 here, then f5 would be coming, but unfortunately it is on b3. But it's not a really big deal. White just needs to develop, and here bishop e2 was played. Okay, now we're back into a very normal game once again. h5 was played in the game. Now this move is pretty necessary because you want to create a bigger space advantage on the king side for black, and also you might want to develop your bishop this way with bishop h6 in the future. In the game, short castle was played and knight c6. Well, here knight c6 is not the best move here. Instead, the knight should probably go to d7 instead, because it can jump to c5 at some point and trade off the knights. Whereas the knight comes to c6, it doesn't really do much. And here white plays king h1. King h1 is actually a really calm move here. For some of you guys who are really like in a hurry or are really aggressive, you might just be playing some moves like f5 here. But f5 is not a good move here. Of course, black won't take, because if you take, then white is going to be winning. But instead, black will just simply develop his pieces regularly, and white can't really do anything. So what's important here is actually, first of all, for white to get his king to safety, and then get all of the pieces to where they should be. Then, at the very last, start launching the attack in the center. We have to be really quick, because black's king is still in the center of the board at this point. But after a couple of moves, if black is developing really fast and got his king to safety, then it might not be that easy for white to attack anymore. Okay, so in the game here we have king h1 and bishop d7 was played in the game. This is a position where it's pretty much equalized. And actually, this variation is called the poisoned pawn variation. A very unique name, that is, but this definitely shows the most interesting part of this variation. And for black has actually like 2 pointed pawns here, because here if white wants to take either of these pawns, that will take a lot of moves basically, and probably like if you take it, white might get into some trouble, and that is why these pawns are called the poisoned pawns. And here we have knight b1, which was played in the game, a very creative move. So white's idea is to kick this queen away from a3. And in the game, queen b4 was played. Fischer decides to offer a queen trade. But here, Spassky says, I'm not going to trade the queens off, I'm going to play queen e3. Because here, if you decide to get the queens off the board, then this is just going to be better for black, because as you can see here, black's king is still in the center of the board, and black is actually in a very desperate situation to get the king castling, because black wants to get the king to safety since white's queen is still on the board. But if you get the queens off the board with takes, then black no longer needs to go castle. And then bishop h6 is coming, king e7, black is going to be better here. And also, this knight just came back to b1 and then for nothing, basically. So that is why instead in the game, white just ignores the trade offer and played queen e3, which is a very nice move. And in the game here, Fischer actually made an inaccurate move by playing d5. Now, this move is already like a really strange or like awkward looking move, because black's king is still in the center of the board, and for black's first of all start to launching an attack in the center just doesn't seem right, because now white can just simply take, and I guess black's idea is to go knight e7 to win this pawn back, but this just doesn't seem right. In the game we have c4. So Spassky is defending the pawn. Now the main point is that you do not take on e6, because after you take, then black will play f takes e6 and fix his pawn structure. Now even though white will, at this point, you can even realize that white is no longer like up a pawn here. We can see that after takes, knight e7 back, takes, like black manages to fix his pawn structure, and at this point, it's pretty much like an equalized position with both sides' accurate play. Of course, black is the side who might be facing more pressure because the king is kind of not safe. But maybe after, for example, like knight 1 d2 and then knight f5 or something to attack the queen, it's pretty much a normal position. But anyways, let's first of all take a look at what happened in the actual game here. d5 takes knight e7 was played in the game, and here c4 instead. c4 defending the pawn and knight f5. So black, as you can see, is kind of playing this knight a couple of moves, knight c6, knight e7, now knight f5, to attack the queen. Now this is actually a very interesting idea by Fischer, but it does take a lot of moves for him to achieve this idea. And still, as you can see, the bishop, the rook, and the king are still kind of not where they should be. Oops. And in the game here, we have queen d3, just a very calm queen move, moving away from the knight's threat. And here we have h4. Now again, this most important thing for black is to develop the pieces here, and probably rook c8 is a pretty nice option to put some pressure on the c4 pawn. The king right now is pretty much safe on e8 because white can't really do anything yet, and then bishop e7 might be coming. Black is doing pretty much fine here, but in the game, Fischer decides to go for some risky moves, and he decides to play h4. His idea is to start launching an attack on the king's side by just directly pushing the pawns, but this just doesn't seem right. In the game, Spassky played bishop g4, now threatening to take on f5 and creating a doubled pawn. Now this is just a really ugly pawn structure if black doesn't really do anything. And here, we come to a turning spot of this game. Now I'm going to ask you guys a question here. For this knight, you have basically 3 good spots to go to. Knight g7, knight e7, and also knight d6 is possible. You can also play long castle here to get the king to safety. Which move do you want to choose? Which move do you want to play here? Well, in the game, Fischer played the worst move here. Actually, 3 of them, knight g7, long castle, and knight e7. These 3 moves are the very normal ones. And I mean, just playing one of them is okay for black. But however, Fischer just played the other move, knight d6, and this is just a blunder. It's not obvious. Why is it a blunder at first sight? Because you just calculate and you see that, wait, why is this a blunder? Because I'm not blundering any pieces or something. But then suddenly you just realize that the knight on d6 not only blockades all of these diagonals and everything. At first sight, it may seem that it is attacking the c4 pawn. But now that after knight d2, white manages to develop the knight, but also at the same time defends the c4 pawn, suddenly you realize that c5 is coming. That is a threat, but not only c5, but then there's now a3 or something, and the queen can only go to a4 at that point, because if you play queen b6, there's c5, and an much more deadlier threat, it is a fork. So this knight is just not where it should be. This is the worst spot that the knight can go to. And I mean, if black had played anything else, like long castle or knight g7, knight e7, it's basically pretty much fine for black. Black is maybe a little bit worse, but at least it is playable. But now after knight d6, Spassky just played the best response, and the only response here, knight d2. And in the game here, Fischer just realized that things are starting to get a little bit not good for him. And in the game, he played f5, trying to first of all kick this bishop away. But Spassky just says, I'm simply ignoring your threat, and I'm going to play a3. And here a3 was played. The queen now obviously needs to go to a4, and then knight c5 comes, queen a5, at least to manage to get out of that fork. Knight takes and then take on g4, but this is, I guess, still completely winning for white, because your king is just too much in danger. And then knight f6 check, for example, king e7, just take back the pawn. White is up a pawn, but at the same time black's pieces and the king are all terrible. This is completely winning. But in the game, instead of playing queen a4, queen b6 was instead played, simply allowing white to push c5 and fork the queen and the knight. Well, at least here there's still queen b5. You cannot take on d6 immediately because you're going to lose the queen, but you don't need to worry about that because you just play queen c3 here, and suddenly you realize, since black's pieces are just way too much misplaced, the queen is now attacking the h8 rook, which is undefended, and at the same time also still threatening to take on d6, and this is pretty much game over. So Spassky is actually playing really accurate. All of these moves, knight d2, he is playing all of the best response in the game. F takes g4 was played, but now Spassky again played the best move. He is not going to take on h8 because that is just too greedy. Black will play knight f5 here to run away with the knight. And maybe there's still some compensation because this knight is at least right now a pretty much like a really strong knight, and it could cause some trouble for white. And Spassky in the game says, I'm not going to give you any chances to create counterplay, and he decides to play a4. The queen can basically not go anywhere, because if you play queen e2, which is the only free square the queen can go to, now there's rook u1 to trap the queen, and still this is game over. Black is going to be down a full queen. In the game, Fischer tried to play some other moves, and he played h3, but this doesn't really do anything. He just simply loses a queen here. Now this is completely winning after h takes g2, king takes g2, rook h3. Queen f6 was played in the game, sliding the queen into the action and attacking everything. Knight f5, but c6 is just coming. As you can see, Spassky is now throwing all of his pieces onto black's king. And here, after bishop c8, d takes e6, f takes e6, rook f e1, bishop e7, and the final blow, rook e6. And this is game over. Because first of all, you cannot take the queen because there's this pin. There's this pin here, but second of all, if you take on e6, there's queen takes e6, attacking the knight, and then also just too many threats are coming. This is definitely game over. This was just a really beautiful game played by Spassky when he was facing a really strong player, Bobby Fischer. He played extremely well in this game. I mean, even though he lost the title after the whole championship, but he played really well, and we cannot deny that he is a bad player. He is a legendary chess player. And sometimes we should not just look at, well, this player, what title does he has, but sometimes we should just dig into their games. Just no matter what kind of players they are, you just dig into their games, and we just trying to see the beauty behind all of these moves. As you can see, he is a player who is from the early this is a game that was played in 1972, but already he is playing like an engine. I mean, he is just playing really accurate moves. So we cannot deny him that he is not a good player. He is a legendary chess player. And, well, even though he is now, passed away, he is not with us anymore, but still his games will keep passing down to younger generations, new generations of chess. And also his, skills, strategies, everything will pass to, new chess generations. So, yeah. He is definitely a legendary chess player.